Okay, so the first thing about the Makam system, okay, when you're playing the Makam system, I said it already, but I'll repeat it. Don't think about scales, even though, this is the thing I was trying to tell you, is that when you go try to learn this, usually they'll confuse you, because they'll say, oh, this is this scale, and the Beatty scale, and then there's this families of scales, and you go, okay, and then you maybe try to, someone gives you a little bit of theory, says this guy, and then maybe you try to take a recording of Makam Beatty, and you try to listen to that, and maybe copy it, and make some sense out of it, right? That's how we learn music, right? Is we get some theory, we get some, and then we take the actual. It's how I learn music, anyways. You take the actual music recordings and then try to copy it, try to understand it. I mean, I don't know if that's how I've always learned music, right? So the problem is that they tell you the scale, and then you take a recording of Beatty, and then you try to understand. So, okay, well that note is not in the scale. Why? Why is that? Oh, and that note is not in the scale. Why is that? So they're not playing that scale. What's going on here? Right? And you immediately kind of just throw up, you just kind of go, oh, I give up. It's hard to understand. You can't understand it. Okay, did you have a question?
No.
Oh, you look like you. Okay, so this is the problem. I don't know if you've ever done that. If you've ever tried to just like take a recording of a Makam performance and try to understand it intellectually. You hear all these notes, but the thing is that what's really, if you hear like a jazz recording, of course jazz, it's also a system, or like even a blues solo. There's not really a system, I mean, like let's say like a Jimi Hendrix solo or something like that. It's based on the pentatonic scale, the blues scale, but then they'll be putting in different notes, and you go, well, why is he doing that? Why is Jimi Hendrix playing that note? It's a ninth. They go, because he felt like it, right? It's not like, oh, there's a system in that. Okay? Now with a Makam performance, of course there's also just feeling, and you put that in there, but it's systematic, right? I mean, like, you do certain notes because that's part of the system, right? It's a grammar, right? I mean, like, you can speak like Czech, you can speak it correctly with the declinations. Once within that system, you can speak whatever you want, but it's either correctly done or not correctly done, right? According to the grammar. Now that's what the Makam is. So it's a system. And in order to do it, really, once you know the system, then you can also really go out if you're really advanced. You can twist it like crazy, but you know how to get back in. Okay. But the first thing is, if you want to know Makams, you have to know the system. Okay. So that's what I'm giving you here on this sheet, is the whole system, the fundamentals, the basics of it. The first thing to understand about it, and I'm just going through this, jins. Jins is an Arabic word for tetrachord or pentachord, okay? So if you have a scale, I can demonstrate, if you have a scale like the Rast scale, okay? Rast would be like... That will be Rast pentachord plus Rast tetrachord. Okay? So there is no Rast scale. That would be Rast pentachord, microtone, pentachord. Now transpose that. So if you look, we can just jump down here and look at the jins, okay? Look at the jins for Rast, okay? Now, you see it goes 1, and then there are 8 dots, and then a 2, okay? So the dots represent komas, okay? So a koma is like between... Okay, in the jins, I've written very small here, like a quarter tone is 2 commas. I've written very small here. Quarter tone is 2 commas. A normal semitone. These terms are not black and white. These are, some subjective terms, right? But basically, what we think of as a normal semitone. Let's call that 4 commas. A normal whole tone, 8 commas. A big semitone is 5 commas, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so these are all these different numbers of commas. These are giving all of the possible, within the system, all of the possible intervals. Okay? Again, this is still theoretic. Okay? This is still theoretical. This is an approximation. It's not exactly like that. But in order to try to kind of understand it, this is a close scientific approximation of what's going on. Okay? So let's look at this Rast. Rast between note, like I just gave it note number 1, note number 2, note number. Oh, do you have a, take.
So it's like check, Rast part 3, right?
Yeah, take that. Yeah. So the reason why. So these are all the jinns, okay? And as I said, oh, you taking off?
The note information's right there.
Okay, great. Okay, so I see that. So the system has got hundreds of maqams, okay? But basically all of the maqams are just combinations of only these. Combinations of these jinns, okay? In different combinations, starting from here, starting from there, and then even if you would have 2 of the same jinns, you can also have a different maqam because the emphasis might be on the high notes, whereas the emphasis might be on the low notes is a different maqam. So there are other factors, grammatical factors, means that you can have the same jinns even. There are many maqams like Bayati and Ushak, for example. It's just the same jinns, everything looks the same, except Ushak has the emphasis on the low notes, Bayati has the emphasis on the middle notes, and Muhayyer is also the same as emphasis on the high notes. So what I'm trying to do with this whole thing is to try to just take a sweeping overview of the whole system. When you have this, you won't be able to play anything. But this will be, if you want to go deeper into the system, this will help you enormously if you decide on your own to follow up and learn the Makam system. This would be like gold, save you years of confusion. But just on its own, it won't give you that much because it's very theoretical. But it took, I was just pulling out my hair trying to finally understand this. Nobody can teach it, right? So Rast, the reason why I've given the numbers here, rather because usually it's taught by saying do, re, mi, and as soon as it's taught, like Rast pentachord will be taught do, re, mi. As soon as you do that, the mind fixates, oh, Rast starts on do. I was taught that, it starts on do. So whenever somebody says Rast, you think, well, that starts on do. And so your mind is fixated that Rast starts on that note, right? And somebody says, okay, play a Rast from Neva. You go, well, what do you mean? Right? What? And you get confused because that's why I identified the Rast as not as starting on any particular note, but as just one. So that means you can take any of these jinns and start from wherever you want. So what you're learning here is you're learning the phone number. You're not learning, right? You're learning how many commas between each interval, okay? So Rast, between the first note of Rast and the second note is a normal whole tone, okay? It's a normal whole tone, easy. It's just like this, okay? Easy. Any problem with that? If I start from here, if I transpose Rast from here, the second note of Rast will be, right? If I transpose to here, if I play Rast from here, the second note will be, okay, so this is transposable, it's simple. The third note, that's where it gets crazy, right? The third note, you've got 6 commas difference, okay? Now the 6th comma, if you look there, it's like it's 6 commas. So basically, you get into this situation. So let's say Rast, we're playing from here. 1, 2. Now, from this note, if we will play a normal semitone, it would be 4 commas, okay? So that would be like... Okay. Now, if we play a whole tone from that note, from the second note, then we would have like a major, right? That's 8 commas. A whole tone is 8 commas. A normal semitone is 4 commas. Major and minor, we know these things, right? What is a 6 coma? Microtonal, okay? 6 comas is a quarter tone, it's halfway between. You know, it's not really played exactly like that, but for the purpose now. So you've got like, how does it sound? You see? You get it? You can hear that, right? So the distance between the second note and the third note is the 6 comas. Now, from the third note to the fourth note, we want to get back to one of these, we'll call them consonant notes, right? Non-microtonal notes. So again, jump up another 6, okay? And you get up to, right? That's the perfect fourth from the tonic. So this is the rust. The fundamental of rust is really a tetrachord, 4 notes. This is the thing. That's the crazy note. Go to the fifth. It becomes a pentachord. So the tetrachord and pentachord. So what? The pentachord you just added a fifth. Okay. Okay, now if we start that from here, rust. Now if we just jump, trying to go through this quickly, jump to the next page. Jump to the next page. This is the codification that I've done here. Now if you're the makam lar, that's a plural of makams. Look at rust, it's the second one there. Now this is where the codification gets a little bit crazy, but it becomes, with using this system, you can really understand a lot. Look at the rust is I got in brackets R4. Okay, now what would you think R4 stands for? Tetrachord. What kind of tetrachord? Rust. Bravo. So very clever. R4 represents rust tetrachord. Bravo. What does R5 represent? Rust pentachord. Excellent. Perfect. Now, just to continue on that, ushak, and the next one down, ushak, makam, it says U4. What does U4 stand for? Say it. Ushak, tetrachord. Tetrachord. Well, U4. If it would be U5, it would be ushak pentachord. Okay, and there's something called busalik. Busalik is another one. So the next one down, you have like beati is U4 plus B5. So that's the busalik. But the beati makam is ushak tetrachord plus busalik pentachord. Okay. Okay, so I don't want to go too fast, but I want to get you so you understand this stuff, right? So the codification here, we're going back to rust again. If it's in brackets, that means what can happen in the lower octave when you go down from the tonic, okay? So I hope you're recording this because I'm going to go through this really fast. And so when you go, the brackets is in the lower octave. When you see it in bold and it's underlined, that's the main home, that's the rust. R5, it's in brackets. So rust, as you see on here, in this, it's got R5 in bold and it's in bracket, it's in underline, and that means that rust, if you want to play makam rust, if you know those first 5 notes, and you only play those first 5 notes, and you don't go anywhere, you can say, I played makam rust. It's enough if you want to play makam rust. Beautiful makam rust. That was makam rust. Well, sort of. I mean that's enough. Nobody can say that you played ushak. You played makam rust. You didn't play the whole thing, but basically, one of these jins, one of these tetrachords or pentachords is going to be dominant. It's going to be really the home of that maqam, and most of the playing in that maqam will be in that. Okay? So don't play maqam rast, don't start on the octave. Forget it. You're not maqam rast. You're in mahur maqam. It's a different maqam, you know. So, but as you see here, and this is where it gets crazy a little bit. As you see here, the rast maqam. Okay, let's talk about where it says in brackets. It's R4. Okay, so that means that here's the tonic. If I want to go below the tonic, I can play a rast 4 going down. See, this would be a rast. If I start rast from here, see, phone number, whole tone, then microtone, rast from here, rast from here, rast from here. Whatever, you can play rast from anywhere. But basically, that because the rast is in a low oriented maqam, you go below, you go down a lot. So rast, you will start a rast with, you like to go down. Yeah, it's very rast. You know, that's the first one you learn. So that's what's happening there. Now let's say we because Makam system is a development, okay? It's not just a scale, you have something called a seir. It's a roadmap. You have stopping points, starting points, and stopping points. So you have to follow through the seir, the roadmap. So the roadmap is starting with, of course, the tonic. You develop the tonic at first. You're always, see, how do you know where you are? How do you orientate yourself? You always are playing in a particular jins. It may be for 20 seconds, it may be for 2 seconds, maybe for a really small period of time, but you're always, part of your mind is what jins am I in at the moment? Okay, you're never playing free jazz. Okay? You're always in a particular jins. So now I'm in the first jins there, which is the rast. And my first stopping point is the tonic. Okay, so I develop the tonic first. Depending on how long you want to make your improvisation, you can develop maybe the third. You can, like, then. And if you do that, you want to make a little cheshni, it's called, a little taste. Like raga system in Indian music. You don't, unless you're playing tumari or some mishra, light classical, if you're playing mishra, you can a little bit go outside and come back in, play around a little bit. But with the Makam system, part of the system is to take a taste of another maqam, sometimes little cheshnis it's called. So the most common in rast, it's almost, not completely, but it's almost essential to do it, right? So if you're going to develop this third note, you want to make a cheshni on segah maqam, which is like a. Segah maqam actually is. It's just like, so when you want to emphasize that note, if you go, it sounds better also, because if you go, you can do it like that. But it sounds so nice if you go. You see? So this is to give you an idea of when you're developing, there's cheshnis. But again, all Chechens were always within the same 15 possibilities. So you have to know all these 15 possibilities so well. Okay, so the next stopping point, if you stop there, the next obvious stopping point will be the fifth, right? Okay, on Rust, pentachord. Now I'm developing the fifth note. Okay, shifting the emphasis, I'm developing that. Now, you know, if you take a bucket of water, okay, we've got a big bucket of water, okay? Now, what happens when I go like this? What happens to the water? It shifts, right? The water shifts that way. What happens if I go like this? The water shifts that way. So, this is the same with, because every single note has a certain amount of lepidlo. Okay? A certain amount. Some notes are like second lepidlo, you'll never move those. It's fixated. Some notes are like some very slobby stuff, and it will very it will move. Some is not very strong lepidlo. So every note has a certain amount of rigidity, will stay fixed in its spot, because the force of melodic gravity means if you're going that way, or you're going up, for example, you're going up towards them, if you're going up, then all the notes will have this force of gravity pulling them that way. Okay? But all notes will not shift in the same amount, because some notes got second lepidlo. Some notes won't shift at all. They're just like epoxy, you know. Some notes have got some like Hercules or something, and it's not very strong, and any little bit of pulling is going to shift them a lot. Some notes are like different amounts of lepidlo, and they'll shift a little bit, medium shifting. So that means that according to where you're moving, you have to take into consideration that each note will have a force pulling on them to maybe shift them out of position, maybe not, maybe yes, you know. So you have to be conscious of that. Where are you going? Okay, so there are two possibilities. If I'm developing the fifth note, which is the dominant, if I'm developing the dominant, I have two possibilities. My emphasis, I can still be looking, part of me is looking back to the tonic. I'm still homesick. I'm not quite ready to leave home yet. But I'm just thinking about, you know, the dominant and just spreading my wings a little bit. But I'm still thinking about home a lot, right? So I'm still thinking about the tonic. Or the possibility could be like I'm at the dominant and I'm thinking about traveling to the next place, to the octave. So those are two possibilities. One possibility, I'm still developing the dominant. One possibility is I'm still looking back, which means, how does this affect all of these notes? So as we see on the paper, for the next possibility for Rust is either a Busalik tetrachord or a Rust tetrachord. I've given you two possibilities, right? So what is the difference? The difference is, okay, listen carefully. This is a Busalik from Neva. Listen particularly to the third note, okay? Okay? Now that's a Busalik tetrachord. Now, what is a Rust tetrachord? Again, listen to the third note carefully. You heard it? As you notice, that note is shifted. Now that's one of the notes where it doesn't have almost no lepidlo at all. That's a very shifting note, okay? It's because, so what that means is that they're the same, okay? So that means, according to this theory I've just told you, if I'm still feeling I haven't quite left the lower notes, then that note is going to be played there. That's just like a, you know, as opposed to higher. I'm going to play that note lower. So if I'm still like, now if I, so, right? Now, going to the tonic. I'm just getting, what do I do? Did you hear that? I just shifted that note. First I was playing. Stop. It's just like, whoa, what happened? You just feel it. It's just like, oh, everything shifts and the direction of the melody goes boom, a little bit of a lift. And that's pointing the direction. Now I'm going to the octave. That's when you make a shift. But these little shiftings, once you really get into it, you can be shifting. Oh, but no, but I decided I want to go back down. You can make very whimsical decisions, and you can, for a moment, start going back down. So you can, oh no, outside, like in distant moments. So you could shift quite a bit. You could go like, okay, this is that. So it doesn't mean like, oh, once you've shifted, you can go back up and down and play around with that, teasing the listener, right? But don't do it in a chaotic way. You really need to do it with authority. Whatever you do it with authority. Don't like, it has to be like, I'm doing that. It's not like, oh, maybe, that's a mistake, right? So anyways, once you really, so now I'm just thinking about going to the octave, right? So then play that note strongly. And I can do a transposition of let's say if I really want to develop that note for a while, I can do this segia. Remember I told you about the segia cheshni? I can do it on this, on evich. It's an evich cheshni, it's just a modulation of that. I can go like, hear that? Like these modulations can shift. The cheshnis can modulate, right? So now I'm just thinking about going to the octave. I'm still not there yet. Now, but when I really go to the octave, I shift that note even higher. I go. And finally, I finally brought it up to a full. So I started with this note, with 3 possibilities. Yeah. So the full flat would be when you're really thinking about the tonic, everything is shifted down. Thinking about it. You see? You shifted a full semitone. But they call it a scale. Kind of nonsense is this. How are you going to learn this music if you're thinking in terms of scales? It's you see, you can't think in terms of scales. So that's the first thing. You learn this music, forget about scales. Okay, so a very quick overview of this. I mean, we could spend years on this, but maybe that's... Is that enough theory? Should we sing? Should we do some of this music a little bit? Or what do you guys want to do? Again, we could go through this, but I sort of gave you an idea about Rust, right? Now it's the same. There's Chargya. I mean, if you understand the Rust, you can apply this to pretty well everything. And again, like. Please, if anyone is learning and wants to go deeper into this, just send me an email if you have any questions about this.
Maybe you can explain a little bit that most characteristic maqam, which I consider biotic, with this characteristic, it is minus second higher. Yeah, good. This is what I wanted. Okay. Most characteristic.
This is what I wanted to do with singing also. Okay.
Yeah.
Because. Once we have a bit of an idea about the Rust scale, the Rust thing, right? Okay, once you get that in your head, now let's shift the tonic. only changed the tonic. I didn't change anything. I just changed the tonic. Understand? It's like a mode. You know what I mean? Modal. You know how the modal system works? So you have this major scale. You shift the tonic to the second note. You have the Dorian mode, Mixolydian mode. You know how the modal system? You have that in our music. The same thing kind of works with this system. So the tonic can shift within. It's a movable tonic system. Means that before you even start playing, you have to get together with musicians and decide what note is going to be the rust note. What note is going to be the dugia note? You have to decide that. And that's written here also, note names and tuning systems. If you look down the tuning system, Bola Hank is a very common tuning system. That means that if you're an Arab, the note do on the piano will be sol, will be G, okay? And that means that if you're taking an Arabic composition that's written from an Arabic composer, and you see the note sol, you see the note G, that will correspond to rast note in the system, okay? If someone gives you a Turkish piece of Turkish music, the systems are almost exactly the same, and you see the note D. D will be sol. No, sorry. D will be rast. D will be rast. Okay.
Rust.
Rast note.
Rust note. You mean like that microphone?
No. Okay. You have a.
First tone of the second gene.
Okay, so there's a lot of stuff to cover, and you need a backstory. Okay, so we probably should have talked about this at the beginning. The note names. Okay, note names. So when you have so let's not talk about the lower octave. You have the kind of middle note. I mean the two most important notes. Okay, this is again simplification. The two most important notes means that the two notes that have most maqams using that note as a tonic would be rast. You know, you have rast maqam. You have nahawand maqam, very common. Very common, nahawand maqam. This is using rast note as a tonic. Now, within the same system, so we didn't shift anything, we stayed in the same system. See, the thing about, you might be confused with the word system. The system is once you're in the system, you're in that tuning system, you don't, in the middle of the piece, you don't shift out of that system. You start in one system, you finish in that system. In the next song, in the concert, you can shift into a different system. After you can play the Bola Hank system. You don't shift from Bola Hank to Kuzne in the middle of a song. I mean, I'm talking about the traditional way to play. Of course, you can do anything you want, but traditionally, you don't shift in the system. So the point is, the system. These are concepts because the words are not clear what they really mean. The system means that once you're in a system, the system means that in this particular system, rast is starting here. So that means if rast is here, that note has to be the dugia note. Has to be. Because it's one whole tone above rast. Is dugia. If rast is here, if we start the system from here, then what note will this be? Dugia. If we start rast from here, we make that the system. We're going to play every maqam as rast is here. Dugia will be here. So it's called a shiftable tonic system. The whole system must shift. So this is a very hard concept to understand for Westerners because we have this equal thing and we just think about F sharp G. We don't have to bother with this because we have equal temperament. Everything is like Lego building, right? So once you have like rast, okay, next note, dugia. I mean, there are many notes. Every single microphone has a note, but I'll just quickly give you the most common notes, okay? The next note, this is second note. This is that crazy one. If you play it like a minor third, this is a kurdi. If you play it like that's segya. If I play it like a natural second, that's it's a busalik note. Okay? Up to here. It's a chargya note. That's all written there. Chargya. Next one. Neva. Next one. Husseini. If I play like a flat 6, that's ajam note. If I play like a this microton, this is evij note. And then the tonic, Gerdani. Okay, so that means that from a particular, we decided on this note. We decided on that. So from that, we know exactly what the positions must be for all those other notes. Okay? If we decide, no, we're going to start this, maybe the singer is like, well, it's too low. Let's just boost it up a little bit, right? Then you'll probably, with a fretted instrument, it's no problem, you just shift one fret, right? But with this, suddenly, say like it's very, you have to use the open strings with this, because it's like, I feel, say the singer, so let's make it a little bit higher, let's play from here. Then I have to go, I can do it. You'll go crazy from that. Because, you have to make it a little bit easier, but the great musicians, they know how to do this, and many times in Turkey and stuff like that, the singers will just say, no, prima donna, oh no, it's a little bit too something lower, sharp, and they'll force the musicians to lower it like some crazy, like what, and they have to play it. Only really great musicians can do this, and sometimes they really have to do it. So that's what we're talking about. It's a movable tonic system. Okay, so every system has a name. Okay, so again, you have two possibilities. If you get the sheet music, you have two possibilities. Okay, I'm not talking about Persian music. Persian music is also based on a kind of a maqam system. It's called dasht go. It's very similar. It's actually the origins. But when we're talking about this stuff, we're talking more about Turkish, like, don't say Arabic music. You know what I mean? People do that. People say Arabic music. I mean, that's a real insult to the Turks, the Turkish, because it's just as much Turkish as it is Arabic, and that Ottoman Empire, that was controlling everything down there, right? Everything, and it was all one music, really. So it became like a cliche to say Arabic music. It's nothing. I'm not saying anything about Arabic music. Arabic music is it's the same system, okay? So when we're talking about this music, you're going to get, when you start to learn this music, and the best way to learn it is, first of all, you get some theory, or you get somebody who knows the theory who can help you with it. You need this, otherwise, you can learn blues just on your own, but you can't learn this just on your own. You need someone to help you. So the best way to learn this music, if you decide to go further into it, is you go to the compositions. They have peshrevs and sesamaisis. Okay? Peshrevs are longer, sesamais are shorter. You go into this because all of the compositions, there's a huge repertoire of compositions. Okay? Now, all of the compositions are written based on the Orthodox grammar. Sometimes they get a little bit, risque, a little bit. But generally speaking, you're going to be able to take a peshrev, a beati peshrev, and you have the patterns. You have like a verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus. Like hane, teslim, hane, teslim, hane, teslim. The teslim always stays the same. The first hane, second hane, third hane, fourth hane. Those are changing every time. The first hane will outline the very most typical representation of, and like a rast, the first hane of rast will be just like, it won't go anything, it'll just give you rast, unadulterated rast, okay, it's the first hane. And so that way, so what I'm trying to say is that when you study these compositions, you get for you examples of the maqam. So the first hane will be rast. The second, the teslim, will usually be also quite typical rast or whatever maqam. The second hane will introduce development of probably developing the dominant or developing a little bit of development there. Not too much, but it's probably showing the upper jims. And the third hane, Third hane, there's a little bit of a tempo change also, usually a shift. Third hane, the fourth hane. Fourth hane, usually there's a little shift in time signature, usually goes into 3 or something, but that's another story. But the third hane will show the octave. You see, like as the composition progresses, it also illustrates, it shows to you the development of the maqam, the seyir, the roadmap. It shows you that. So you can study. So that's why I'm stressing, you want to get the sheet music, you want to start to study these compositions. And this is what I did. I just took the compositions and I said, okay, and I went through it. Even without even thinking about the music, I just analyzed the notes. And once I came to a note where I, wait, this doesn't fit in. Where is this note? What note? Why is this note here? It doesn't fit in. And I would find somebody who knew the answer and say, why? What's going on with this note? And they say, well, show me the context. Okay, what? You go, oh, no. Okay, they were doing a Chechny on Beati or something. This is a little Chechny. It's very common. They do a Chechny. You know, they'll say, oh yeah, you do a Chechny. So you learn these typical things, right? What they're doing is a little taste. They're just jumping into a little Chechny on this. And then you analyze it more and you go, okay, well, wait a second. Is this a Chechny or is this a modulation? Because a Chechny is not a modulation. A Chechny is just a momentary little taste from another maqam. But in this music, you have modulations where you shift. You really shift into different maqams, okay? So then you have to learn, how do you shift, right? How do you shift from one maqam into another? Let me give you just a very quick example of how you might shift, right? You want to take common notes, right? So if I'm saying like Rast, okay? So I showed you maqam Rast where I went, I demonstrated that, right? But say I've developed quite a bit. Now I want to make a modulation. So what I do is I start hitting you with, you have to find common notes. The common notes. Because you have to know where you're going to. Now where you're going to should share some common notes with where you have been. So in order, like what you don't want is you don't want to be like when you're shifting, you don't want to be like, oh, like tripping down the stairs, falling, like you don't want it to hurt. You want it to sound normal, like natural, like shifting, like it's, so you want it to sound very like flowing. So that's why you want to make it soften the edges, right? So you do that by emphasizing the common notes, okay? So I want to shift from here. From the Rast, which is Busalik, to well, this demonstration was not that good because two notes were different, right? So I went more shifted to a Hijaz there. So that was more of a difficult one. If you would just change one note, is even better. So it would be better to do it like this, actually. So say I'm playing it. It would be better to shift to Rast from here. Then it's to shift one note. Whatever, you know. So you just pick common notes and then shift. But okay, this is taking a lot of. This is the advanced way of playing, and it's not necessary. You don't have to modulate. You know, if you want to just play the maqam, you just go through the main stopping points. You don't have to modulate. You can. It's nice. It's a beautiful possibility in music where you can modulate, and then you can modulate from there into something. You can really go nuts with it. You can modulate from there, and you know what you can even do, which is really crazy, is like if you look in your book there, the paper. It's a Segya maqam. I mean, I just want to show you how crazy it can get if you really want to get sophisticated. Look at Segya. Look at the flat 3, okay? Okay? And you see, flat 3, or not flat 3, the microtonal 3, a microtonal flat 3 is the tonic. It became the tonic. Okay? So that's, yeah, so Segya Makam will be like tonic. That's a microtone. That became the tonic. So if we want to get really nuts, because previously everything I've described to you has been, when you make a shift or you make a modulation, the starting point has always been like one of the diatonic notes, right? So if we take a because there's diatonic, like this system is diatonic plus, right? Plus. So it is based on a diatonic thing, right? So you have diatonic notes plus. So if you use the diatonic notes, any diatonic note, as a starting point, then you're still in pretty safe territory, right? It's not gonna get too crazy. But what happens if you take one of the microtonal notes and use that as a starting point and start, because the reason why Segya works as the tonic, the reason why that works is because the rust scale, right? That's the rust, which is the most common. Now, if I just chose one of the notes in the rest scale as a tonic, then all the other maqams are very available very easily, because the other notes and the other maqams are based on that scale. But what happens if I start playing ushak from here? Then all of the other notes everything becomes, whoa, like out there. And this is done. This is really done. This is like well, one of my colleagues, one of my best friends, Mohammed Antar, he's blind and he's great. And this guy, if you go really deeply into maqam music, anybody, then you have to meet Mohammed Antar. This guy knows everything about it, and he's doing this, with a ney, with a flute, with a bamboo flute, It's a guy. It's like, do you understand what I'm saying? He's like, it's within the rules. It's within the rules. You can do it. He didn't shift out of the tuning system. Staying within the tuning system, but starting from a microtone, and then everything, I don't know if you're really understanding, everything else gets into hyper microtone territory, right? You're not still just within the ras, segya, dugya, neva, evich, the easy notes, right? Easy, it's not easy, but, once you, so, it can get, out there, and it's, when you hear it done, it's amazing. You probably won't appreciate it right away, but this music, it takes time to, you have to listen to it. Listen, get acclimatized to the music and start to hear it, and then go into more deviant forms, not deviant, but more advanced forms of it, I mean, this is kind of the big dilemma we have as musicians, right? Because the more advanced or whatever, sophisticated, the less people understand it, therefore the less people will come to your concert, and the less money you make, and you won't be able to be professional, right? So it's like, this is the big dilemma as musicians, as artists, we all know about, But anyways, so where were we? Deity. So within the rust scale, okay? Let's just stay focused on that. You'll get a lot. There's a Hijaz scale. There's a few other scales, but mostly, if you get your brain around the rust pattern, it's a great place to start, and you can grab a lot of maqams. Okay. So, for example, I'll just give you an example. Rust. Another thing I'll mention is that with the maqams, there are basically three types of maqams, okay? One is, and because there are three main notes. Tonic, everybody knows what that is. Octave, we all know what that is. Dominant. Now let's not get confused, because when you say dominant, that's not like in Western music you have the dominant and the subdominant, the perfect fifth. Forget that idea, okay? Just forget that idea. It's not meaning that. The dominant means, okay, as you see, all of these maqams are basically two half scales, okay? Either tetrachord and a pentachord, or a pentachord and a tetrachord. And there's a connection point between them. Okay? The dominant is that connection point. Okay? It can be anything, really. So it's not necessarily the fifth. It's commonly the fifth or the fourth. But in some maqams, like, it can get really, really crazy, where you can have like something completely out, you know. So don't get fixated. Okay? So the dominant, so the three important notes: tonic, dominant, octave. Maqams, which are, so a maqam needs to be centered on one of these notes. If the maqam is fixated or focused mostly on the tonic, it will be very low notes orientated. You don't go too much up, you know. You'll focus on the low notes, and it's called an ascending maqam, because you're mostly going up, okay? If your central point will be the octave, you'll start right on the octave. Start very high. You enter at the octave. But you go down, because you always finish on the tonic. That's a rule. So either you start, the first one, where you start on the tonic, you go up, and then you finish on the tonic also. If it's an upper maqam, you start on the tonic, and eventually come down. If it's a middle-based, and the third possibility is the dominant, okay? It's a middle-based. So you would enter in the middle. So you don't go too low. If you go too low, you've already spoiled the mood, right, of a middle-based. It'll start to feel like a... Of course, there's some maqams like Hijaz is very common. Hijaz, the character of Hijaz is, sometimes they play it like a low, sometimes they play it like a middle. So everything is gray. There's never any black and white here. So the middle-based, you enter with the dominant. And then you go up a little bit, and then you go down. And you always finish on the tonic. Always. So within those possibilities, you can have a total shifting of maqams just based on what note is, if it's a higher maqam or a low maqam. Okay? So that's why in this thing of maqam lar, on that paper here, when you're looking at the different maqams, the ones which are bold and underlined, okay? Right? Those, the jinns, which are bold and underlined, that's where the focus is, okay? So for example, when you look at Hijaz Kar, okay? Hijaz Kar, you see that the very last one, the H-I, high five, is underlined in bold. That means the Hijaz pentachord is an upper bass. It's starting there. You play mostly up there. You hang around up there, jam around up there, and then slowly come down. Okay? It's just for example. So I need to tell you that as I demonstrate. I'm just going to show you what different maqams can be within this Rast scale. Okay? So Rast scale. Start with the most basic. Okay? Now, let's shift the tonic to Ushak. Dugya note. And I play the same. Okay, Rast was Rast pentachord. Now if I play Ushak tetrachord, I will. Alright? Okay? ushak is based on the low notes also. Okay? So that means when it's based on the low notes, then I'm allowed to go below the tonic. So I can do like this. And I said, if you see here, Rast, it likes to go Rast, down to a Rast tetrachord. Okay? It should be Rast pentachord there. Well, that's a mistake. Oh my God. Ushak, it should be a Rast pentachord there. That's a big mistake. Okay? You should change that. That should be our R5 there. Okay? The reason being, because on Rast Makam, you have a Rast tetrachord is 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? But if your tonic is here, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? So you shifted the tonic. So that should be R5. Okay, so now,
R4?
from Ushak Makam in brackets,
Mistake.
in Ushak Makam, like the lower one in brackets needs to be an R5. Ushak, that's R5. Yeah, R5.
R5.
Yeah.
Parentheses,
Yeah. That's a mistake. Okay, now Tomasz asked about Beatty, because everyone's talking about Beatty, right? Whenever you have Arabic music, let's play Beatty. They'll either play Beatty, Hijaz, or Nahawan, you know. It's always those, you know. So Beatty is very common. Now, without getting into too many like details, because in Arabic, like there's always little discrepancies. And why did Tomasz ask me about Beatty? It's because in the Arabic system, they a little bit kind of forgot a little bit of they started forgetting some of these fine points, and they just started calling Ushak. Actually, it's what the Arabs will say about Beatty. They're actually playing Ushak. Beatty, the true Beatty, is something slightly different, and I'll demonstrate it for you. Because that's what the Arabs will do in general. Is they'll play this, you know. Very heavy, very powerful, very masculine, dark. And they'll call that Beatty. That's Ushak. Because it's so similar. Because like the jinns of Beatty and Ushak. Now, just so pay attention to this. This is the difference between Ushak and Beatty. And why are they different? This, if you can catch the reasons here, the subtlety, then you will really understand a little bit more of what's going on, okay? So this is a classic example of two maqams that have the same jinns, means kind of like the same scale, you know? So if I play it like a scale, like a Phrygian mode, you know Phrygian? But the second one. So you kind of take that scale, which is actually the Ushak tetrachord plus the Busalik pentachord. Now, you say it's the same scale, so why are the maqams different? Why are they different? Well, they're different because in Ushak, the focus, the strong point is the tonic. Okay? So again, when the strong point is the tonic, you're allowed to go below the tonic. If the strong point is the dominant, you're not allowed to go below the tonic. And you must enter in the dominant and kind of play around up there. So listen to, I'll give you an example, I'll play a little bit of both so you can really hear how they're sounding different. But they have the same scale. Okay? So what I'm saying to you, Tomasz, is the Beatty, the Arabic Beatty will kind of be like a mishmash and more like Ushak. But the Turks, they're a little more intellectual, and they kept the original. The original Beatty is more this, what I'll demonstrate. It's not this tonic-based thing. What's so amazing about Beatty is it's based on, like the main note is the dominant. So what you do is you start playing on the dominant, and then the dominant feels like the tonic. I'll demonstrate that. It actually gives you like it almost gives you like a polytonal feeling because you're not sure which note is really the tonic. Because the dominant is not the same note, and you have to put that very strongly, so you're not sure where is the center of melodic gravity. Where is the center? Is it the dominant? You know? So I'll demonstrate. Here's Ushak. Okay, tonic, right? A little bit below the tonic. Okay. What about Beatty? Beatty is, that's the dominant. So I will enter, even though the tonic is here, I will enter a basic tuxim improvisation. I will enter like, sounds like the tonic, right? You're immediately thinking, that's the tonic, and it sounds more like a minor. That's Beatty, but it's same scale. Look how different it is. You see? And then I develop it a little bit, go up. Okay. Well,
but if you will hear after.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I will.
Okay. You know, to be honest with you, today I'm pretty free. So if anyone has any more questions afterwards, we can. I mean, I've got the ability, so I'm happy to. If you need to go, come back, or whatever. Okay, so as you see, there. Did you get that? Did you catch the difference? This is Beatty is. That's not the tonic. Even though I'm holding this bass note. I remember years ago you were asking me, what are these bass notes changing, right? This is the thing, right? So it says, and don't do the tonic too much. A little bit. Just touch it a little bit, but don't hold it. And never go. Never go down. No.
Well, this is mainly Turkish thing. Turkish approach.
Yeah, I mean, these days people say Turkish. You know, you'll define it because this would be more today. But let's not forget, the Ottoman Empire was going for hundreds of years. It only ended a century ago. And at that time of the Ottoman Empire, with all of this whole Islamic world or whatever, North Africa, everything was all under the Ottomans. At that time, the music was one. Okay, it started. If you go pre-Ottoman, the Arabs, the Arabic classical, the real original stuff is really, really deep. They've lost. It's a cultural catastrophe, really. What has been lost, and it's just like it's just disappearing, you know. But all this old forms, like many forms of composition, forms of improvisation, you know, based on like themes, and then they're developing, and it's huge, you know. And then, so that's pre-Ottoman, that was all developing, okay. Then the Ottoman thing came, and then that kind of homogenized to a large degree, and it still was very sophisticated, but very homogenized, like they really were playing the same through the. I mean, this is information I'm getting from Muhammad. You know, Muhammad, the blind guy. He and his brother, you know, they know everything. So I just really, I'm only telling you what I heard, right? You know, if it wasn't like that, it might not have been, right? You know, but you know what I'm trying to say. This is what it seems. It happened like this. In the Ottoman times, it was homogenized, and then after the Ottoman Empire ended, the Arabs. They really wanted to be Arab again, you know? And the Turks wanted to be Turk, and this nationalism kind of grew up. And at that time, the Turks kind of put their intonation closer to Western. And even the style of composition became a little more Western, little chords and stuff like that. Like, still modal, but they were the arpeggios, they're hinting at the kind of Western sound a little bit, right? Which, this style is not appealing to me personally. When I hear that, I kind of go, oh, no. It's just not my taste, right? Whereas the Arabs, they went the opposite direction. Official Arab microtonal theory. Like they had these music conferences where they got together in Cairo in 1933, and they had these pivotal periods where they had major conferences in the Arabic world and also in Turkey, where they, with all the musicians from the universities, they all got together and they decide, how are we going to, because the music was not standardized at all. It grew organically. So they had to have these certain periods of time where they got together and they standardized. So the standardization of the Arabic system was they decided that they're going to make it like an equal tempered 24 notes. You see, 24 notes. So all the microtones are either just quarter tones, right? Which is ridiculous. I mean, you know, that's why. If you want to learn Arabic music, learn Turkish music first. Don't try to learn Arabic music from Arabs. Don't even bother. Learn Turkish music. Learn, because when you learn the Turkish thing, they explain this, and then take what you learn from the Turkish. Then you can play the Arabic properly, because the Arabs are doing that without realizing it. I'll give you one example. Hijaz Makam, like what is most like really, really sad things. You see people, I've had a guitar here, I could show you how they play Hijaz on a guitar. And so many fusion groups are playing Hijaz, right? And even if you go to like a Hijaz scale, right? And they'll even call it Arabic scale. And you heard that scale a million times. Right? You've heard that scale. Right? Typical Arabic scale, they call it. Now, what is the really characterizing part of that scale is this tritone. Right? Now look how far I have to stretch my hand. Like I'm playing it like a piano, right? Look how far, it's almost painful for my fingers, right? And that's how I would have to play it on a guitar. Very far between the flat second and the major third. Now this is an absolutely disgusting perversion of what the real thing is. The real thing is the second. I'm playing it like this. So the real thing is the second is slightly 1 comma sharp, and the third is probably 2 commas flat. So it's so much compressed that I can play with these 2 fingers. So the real thing is. How I play it. It sounds like Bulgarian music or something, right? Because that's what they happened in the Balkans. The Balkans used to be under the Ottomans. But then it's another example of how politics came into it. Because the Balkans was all full of Ottoman music. They used to play it like I did it now. But then they hated the Turks so much after the Ottoman Empire that they rejected this microtonalism. So they just put 12 tetized all the music. Put frets, 12 frets, and then they play Hijaz like that. Especially in the Balkans, Greek and all this. And they flattened it all, and they just lost. It's just a massive cultural loss in this thing. So that's like Turks play this interval. Can you hear the difference? Like this particular note is, to me, that's the most Turkish note you'll ever get. I don't know, you know. Arabs will play it a little bit wider. A little bit wider. Turks really compress that, which goes against what I was saying before. The way Arabs. What I was saying before is Arabs like this in Rast, for example, Rast, the microtonal note. The Arabs really kind of make it heavy metal. They really flatten that, very dark. Whereas the Turks made it a little bit more like a major third. Like Turks will play Rast more like. It's almost a major third. Arabs will play it like. They'll play it there, more microtonal. But with a different maqam, the Hijaz maqam, the Turks are making it more microtonal, right? They couldn't give up on that. I don't know why, because the Hijaz, those notes in the Hijaz are so beautiful. So again, everything I'm saying is gray area. There's no black and white in everything I'm saying. There's no rules. I'm just only giving you like general. Okay, so let's not get lost, and we do want to do a little bit of this singing these things. So again, starting from this scale. So if you just have this one scale, Rast again. Now let's make the tonic here. Same scale, tonic. Already we got two maqams. Ushak. Beati, same as. Okay, now let's jump to the next note. It's the Segya note. We have Segya maqam. It's the same scale. Well, more or less. If you have. That's the Segya note. So let's make a maqam from here. Go to the next note, Chagya. Make the tonic this. That's another maqam. Like a major scale. Not a very common maqam, Chagya. So we'll forget about that. Next note, Neva. Again, Neva is the dominant of Beati, so we can call that Beati. Same scale, but Neva is the important note. It's the Beati maqam. Now, next note in the scale is Husseini. Saddam Husseini. That's a joke. Husseini, that note has its own. It's actually an ushak, if you would call it an ushak pentachord. Ushak pentachord, but it's such a common thing that you don't call it, you call it Husseini pentachord. Because that's Husseini note. Now this is such a common maqam and such a easily recognized. Husseini is probably the most easily recognizable maqam. Because again, it's bass, that's the dominant and that's the main note. So you go like this. If you just play da-da-da-da-da, it can only be Husseini. Tonic, tonic, tonic. Perfect fifth. You just play those two notes. It's Husseini maqam immediately. And then some cliches. Totally cliche. If you don't play that, you have to play that. But Husseini is so nice because it enters on this note, and then you have, as I told you, this lepidlo trick, especially with this six note in the scale, this ajam and evich. You have that right in the entry point. So with this, you can play with this a lot. Like, have a listen. Like I'm playing with these notes, Mike. So I can start by going. See, microphone. I started the phrase with the microtone. so it's like, whoa, because you're in that area, right? You start that area. That's where so it's not really defined. It's not defined. Like if you're going to be playing upper or lower, so with Husseini, you can mix those notes freely. It's just a microtone. Okay. So, anyways, as you see, you can keep on going. Evich or Evich is the next note in the scale. That's also a maqam there. Beautiful maqam. That's ajam, sorry, not ajam. Evich is another one. Evich is here. So that's probably enough of a demonstration of, as you see, from just the rust scale, you can get a lot of really common maqams. So that's a great place to start with the thing. No, why don't we just if anyone doesn't want to sing or whatever, but why don't we sing a couple of these things just to get an idea, so you can feel it a little bit of this thing. So everybody sing. So sing this note. You can hum it or whatever. Okay, so we'll do the pentachord. We'll just do those two notes, okay? So you can feel it very constant, because it's hard to sing. I also have a hard time singing the microtones, right? But don't be afraid if you feel it's out of tune. Just try, okay? So we'll start with the consonants. Just those two notes. Now I'll add one note. I'll add the fifth. Okay, I'll add one more note of consonant notes, right? So it's not too crazy. So. Okay, now let's try the microtone. Okay, so what's it? Oh.
Bricks.
What's that?
Bricks.
Bricks! Beautiful bricks. Okay. Okay, let's go. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. It's a microtone. Come on, try it a little bit. Try it. Okay, we'll go a little different. Okay, we'll go to the fourth. 3, 4. Okay, we'll go to the fifth. Okay, don't be shy, come on. Okay, good. I heard you. That was really good. So we'll do it just at the fifth and then stop. Okay, let's make it a little bit more, I think. We'll just go down. Okay, change it a little bit. Thinking of this, just. This is really advanced. This is difficult. Beautiful. Okay, let's do another one. Okay, so that was all based on Rust Makam with the tonic, right? So we're going to do this, as we know, the Rust Makam shares the same notes as Ushak and Beati, but the tonic shifts. So we'll shift the tonic, but as you notice, we'll play this kind of the same notes, and this is how different it sounds. Okay, so. Oh, sorry, we'll do it like. Same notes. is why I prefer the Oriental system, like not this, as I was explaining, the modern mathematically made microtonalism, is you're locked into the microtones. Whereas the beautiful thing about this Makam system, organically developed, is you have a sliding. So you go like, it's sliding, it's falling, you know, so especially this one. So you can just, you don't even have to worry too much if you hit the right note. You can kind of just like, just, you know, then you're falling down. Right? You don't have to think, oh, locked into some microtone, which is mathematically derived. Forget about that. Just fall, okay? Oh, you just got back to the fun part. Okay. so here, first of all, hear how I'm doing it with the falling, and then try to emulate it. You guys are great singers. Wow. Sounding good. I can hear it a little bit louder, but it sounds good. Sounding really in tune, especially over here. So, ready? Okay. Without falling. You can also fall on the second note there. When you're descending, right? So when you're going up, you don't fall, right? Right? It's all logical. So, ready? I'll shift to the rest. I'll shift tonic and it'll shift Makam to the same note. So. Or no, let's do, that was beautiful, that was great, I can hear that. So let's shift to Beati. So again, you got the feeling there, same notes, different tonic, and you have a different feeling, right? Are we over time yet, probably?
It's okay, you can stay.
Oh, we are over time?
No, you're just.
Okay.
So, if you want to work